let me warmly welcome everybody to our session. If there's anyone here who has participated in the two earlier sessions, I'm sure that you have had a great time. First of all, talking about the structures that the African Union is putting in place to enhance teaching and learning in the first session was a great one. And then the just ended one was talking about investment. Now we are here to talk about how we can connect and actually develop successful collaboration with partners both in Sub-Saharan Africa and then those in the European Union. It's going to be an interesting one. We basically have three different sessions in this. We will have first try to understand the landscape, and thankfully Jiveli is here to present on the strategic importance of building that EU-SSA collaboration and the mutual benefits that we stand to gain. And then we'll have Zandile talking about the synergies and opportunities that are available for such collaboration. Then we'll move to the other one, which actually shows us how we can connect. So Charlie from Bondinov is going to give us a practical guide in doing this. Then Albert will talk about the cultural nuances that we should observe and try to work around, because those of us from Africa, even Africa to Africa, from different countries, usually we have cultures that clash and people having different sensitivities. So we need to also be interculturally aware, which is very important. So we look forward to that as well. And then later, at the final part, we look at how then we can develop such relationships. So we'll have Crispin talking about the structure of the collaboration. So right from the time you think about forming such collaboration to actually executing it. And then Joseph will talk about how we can unlock funding from such relationship. Then Eva will come in from the perspective of project management, how we can manage such relationships. So this is the lineup, and I hope that you're going to enjoy it. So going straight into the presentations, I will invite Jiveli to start her presentation. Thank you very much.
Gideon, please confirm if you can see the presentation.
Yes, very colorful.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Gideon, for presenting me, introducing me. Yeah, it's my pleasure actually to be part of this boot camp, and I'm very happy to see that there is such a big number of participants already, and probably people are still joining us, meaning that the strategic partnership is really important among regions, and we look forward to for all the opportunities that the region and all the platforms brings to us. Let me very briefly to introduce myself. So my name is Živile Paužaitė, and I represent Tech Park Kaunas organization, business support organization in Lithuania. And this organization is certified member of EBN. And we're very happy actually to experience and already to different opportunities and some of the platforms, including also seed project opportunities. Why actually us to express the interest in participating in this event and also being willing actually to share the experience in strategic partnership? Because this is exactly us, like an organization with some story behind as the origin. which we believe that had some experiences on the way developing our organization and our partnerships with different stakeholders, locally, regionally, and between regions. And it times come that when we scale up our partnership, we also feel some kind of a mission actually to share our experiences, what has been done before, what is still on the way, and what we can do together. Let me very briefly to introduce the organization and actually how we come into this understanding. So Tech Park Kaunas in Lithuania, as Kaunas Science and Technology Park, also plays a role as a business support organization. And we have some story behind. The organization was launched in 1998. And since that time, we went through quite different ways of challenges, actually creating various kinds of partnership in the northern and east part of the Europe, partnership creating among other European Union countries, looking for the partnership between continents and so on. And what we also realized that, in fact, creating partnerships in different areas and in different regions and interacting with different stakeholders, at one point we realized that we also bring a mission of the intermediator, and that we are also like interactors among stakeholders in the ecosystem. In the slide, I'm also showing that we as a business support organization, we have 3 shareholders. One of the shareholders is the Ministry of Economy and Innovation, which gives an understanding that actually we have actually very close cooperation with the government, which brings towards this business support organization very clear priorities. That's what comes to the national level, and also brings priorities and understanding which is aligned with the regional level, meaning, for example, the European Union and also beyond. And talking even beyond, we have 2 other shareholders, and these are universities. Kaunas University of Technology, which is very much focused on technological innovations and scientific research and the products that should be commercialized in this area, as well as Vytautas Magnus University, which is focused on the agriculture and bioeconomy and all the commercialized projects in this area. So we are kind of like really scoped and surrounded by shareholders and also cooperation and interest in supporting different actors and being part of the ecosystem and the process in it. What do? We have 100 companies in-house, meaning that we feel the pulse of the startups and the small and medium enterprises and grown-up companies in the ecosystem, in Kaunas ecosystem, in a national ecosystem, and what are the needs for them to cooperate with academicians, researchers, and also innovators. And our mission is to stand actually between and help all the stakeholders and actors to intermediate, to connect, to work together, to boost, to provide various kind of specialized help and support. Why the partnership in research and innovation between 2 regions matters? If we talk about the European Union and Sub-Saharan Africa regions, why it matters? It's not like actually the story to tell just right now, like today, but actually story comes from long time ago. But probably what everybody in our ecosystem and region realizes that it's most important why it matters. These are global challenges that require joint solutions. We face challenges in climate change, in food insecurity, health crisis, digital divides. And probably everybody understands that no single region can solve these challenges alone. There is only a solution that if we put together and join our efforts together, collaborated, that we could shift those isolated innovations into co-created solutions. And that what comes exactly for these two regions, we are actually become like natural partners, because Europe can bring resources, can bring also networks. Africa region brings dynamism, talents, fast-growing markets, and this is a great symbiosis to work together towards the actually creating and finding the solutions facing those challenges. To say that the strategic partnership matters, it's like a clear understanding, but sometimes when it comes to reality, we understand that it's also a challenge from the different perspective. Strategically, it is important, but quite often it brings, and especially in the beginning of the looking for partners, some kind of a stereotype that it might be not equal, that it could be like, for example, usage of different resources. So it is important to understand, especially in cooperating between these two regions and the stakeholder among those two regions, that it's a partnership of equals with real gains for both. For both, meaning for both actors from different regions. So the European Union, if it gains talents, new markets, or access to those markets, fast adoption of, for example, various kind of innovative solutions. So Sub-Saharan Africa gains finances, international networks, research infrastructure, and most important thing is that they share gains, and especially that they share gains in inclusive, scalable solutions for those shared challenges, because this is the only way those challenges to face and actually to solve, working together, sharing not only the resources but also the gains. While starting actually the partnership or creating the collaboration, quite often stakeholders are kind of lost. So from what to start? So usually it's like a determination, looking for different perspective, grasping this and that, not necessarily being ready for example, the partnership itself, not exactly knowing what kind of partners to look for. Probably one of the most important steps to begin is actually to be aware of the policy frameworks. Because the frameworks, this is something that is not abstract. This is something that gives open real doors for the projects and the tangible results. So when we look to the cooperation among those two regions and the stakeholders working together, definitely the story comes, from a long time ago. But something that what comes to the policy requirements, to the framework that actually describes and gives necessary tools and the vision and the agenda, we can start actually emphasizing, and especially something that is relevant still up to us now. So it's adoption of the joint Africa and the European Union strategy, which was adopted in 2000. Later on, it followed with the joint vision, meaning that two regions, the European Union and Africa, actually created a common vision which is aligned with both regions and their priorities. And there it comes in 2022. And 1 year later, we have a vision and the agenda, how we can cooperate together towards the innovation, how we work actually solving various kind of challenges that would comes to relevant to both of the regions, involving and implementing and launching innovations in different sectors. And that gives long-term framework for cooperation for both regions and the stakeholder working within it. Definitely, that what comes to the policy framework. Policy framework would never work or would never be functional if it's not based on some kind of funding opportunities. I know that some other presentation which will come later in this session will cover those financial tools and also possibilities of funding. So I will not go into details. My role is actually to give like broader understanding why it is important and how it could work as a structure. So if the policy framework gives a long-term perspective, so funding opportunities and various kind of financial instruments makes it actually real and tangible to make those projects real and to be implemented. So one actually of the financial instruments, definitely it's a Horizon Europe, which is like a direct funding opportunity for joint research and innovation cooperation. It comes together with the initiative, which is called Global Gateway Africa and Europe Investment Package, meaning that the Horizon Europe projects and calls for the project, even though aligned, for example, for the cooperation of two regions, comes with a specific package, investment package with over 150 billion investment support by the EU budget. And in 2025, although, for example, if we look, for example, a year ago, it was felt like a little bit like slowed down process. This Europe Investment Package again renewed Africa Initiative Package, which comes with the number 3, and it opens new calls. So be aware of that, and later on, when I'm finishing with the presentation, I will share it with the organizers that they could actually also share it with the participant if this is as of interest for them actually to look for more information, cooperation and research, and also open calls. What comes next? Next, probably it is also important that when we talk about the innovation and research and the partnership among the stakeholders, to emphasize some institutions. So definitely here it comes the European Research Council, which offers various kind of grants to researchers and researchers like frontier researchers and their groups, and both sides, like groups working in Europe and vice versa. And another very famous program is Marie's Słodkowska-Curie Action, which is important especially for the fellowships and postdoctoral research countries, and for the opportunities to spend up to 2 years in European group or again in vice versa. So as we can see, there is a big support for the researchers, but definitely that what comes to the cooperation and the partnership in each of the region, and also to boost the research and innovation, it is important actually to give a boost for the mobility and training of researchers. So one of the programs is definitely Erasmus+, and also a big boost in this regard. Here it comes a SEED project, which is operated by Enrich Africa, also Africa Europe Innovation Platform, which actually helps ecosystems and business support organizations match together, go for study visits. Actually, even this bootcamp is also organized within the framework of SEED program as well. And one more program to be mentioned is Euro Access, which supports researchers' mobility and career development. So in my next slide, I'm just showing the print screen from the Euro Access platform that shows opportunities that are available within the framework of this program in Africa region. So here we have, as we can see, 5 main research fields that currently are trending in Africa region. It's chemistry, engineering, biological sciences, environmental sciences, geosciences, and so on. And within this framework, we can see that there are 175 job offers available, and EU-RSSA gives a support in this regard through these centers, which are launched in 9 different countries. So I'm very briefly introduce the policy framework, which documentary and the visionary part, and also some financial funding opportunities. However, when it comes to the creation of the partnership, it's also important to encourage various kind of stakeholders, either they are researcher or small and medium enterprises, startups, or business support organization, that it's very important to be proactive. And to be proactive, to feel tendencies, to be part of the community, it's always good to be part of various kind of platforms. So here it comes AfriLab's platform, which supports entrepreneurs, developers through capacity building, networking opportunities, policy advocacy, also gives some access to finances to certain initiatives and opportunities, participate in the different events, to go for matchmaking and so on. Another platform is VC4A, which strengthens the global startup community. And we understand that creation and development and strengthening the community is an important issue, especially by connecting innovative entrepreneurs, creating high growth, high impact businesses, networks, and of course funding they need to success. And one more platform is African and EU Innovation Interface, and this platform is mainly online and is designed to foster collaboration with connections, matchmaking again, innovators, researchers, entrepreneurs, and investors. If the first was an emphasis to some policy framework, which was very much focused read the documentation and the vision, it's also important to emphasize that the partnership, even though sometimes looks that it's so much highlighted from the European Union side, is aligned with the Africa zone's priorities. And here it is important to mention, and especially if we have here participants from the European Union part and the startups or business support organizations, that while, for example, initiating various kind of strategic partnerships, going for strategic projects or for example, collaborative initiatives, that it should be aligned with Africans' documentation and the vision. For example, Agenda 2063, which is Africa We Want, and mainly this document is dedicated to motivate and inspire African states to achieve the ideals of Agenda 2063, and also Science and Technology Innovation Strategy for Africa, as well as various kind of regional and national research and development policies. So once again, why the framework matters? In a way, many things can be done, not exactly, very much planned and could be so spontaneous. But if we work within the framework, in a way, it acts as a bridge. It transforms the policies into tangible collaborations. And what does it help? Actually, it helps to turn policy into opportunity. If first we understand the tendencies, we working within the framework of the vision can give the opportunity and to increase the impact in the region. And especially that it could be essential for the long-term trust. Also, a framework can enable mobility or exchanges, which is a key and essential, especially for the long-term partnership and in starting and giving a kickoff for the partnership. So it gives fundings for the mobility, exchange, research collaboration, especially in the start of the beginning. And definitely building long-term trust, meaning the connection institutions across continents, across borders, and giving opportunity to collaborate. So where and what is the role of business support organization? I was starting my presentation actually giving an example of the experience of Tech Barcona's example and the story, what was behind. So in fact, without business support organization partners, they actually take a risk staying, for example, with their ideas on a paper. And business support organization make them real, make them boost. And what do? Actually, they have quite a diverse role in this process. It helps to connect academia, business, and government together. They interact as intermediators in various kind of discussions, meaning that it can include science parks, incubators, accelerators, clusters. Quite often in some countries, especially those who are, for example, larger and bigger, science and technology parks can include incubators, accelerators, and clusters behind one umbrella. It also builds trust and facilitates matchmaking because it quite often comes with already established partnerships and gives actually a background for the new ones to get together and to start a collaboration. And especially it acts as a connector between government, business, and academia. It also gives a trust. For example, a trust for the government to connect with the businesses, because businesses are quite often a closer cooperation with the science and technology parks and other business support organizations, and also gives a hand to academia. Definitely, it supports small and medium enterprises with market entry. It helps startups and small and medium enterprises to look for the new market, to find those markets, to provide mentors, to give funding, to give consultations, to provide matchmaking. So it's like a huge portfolio and the package of various kind of services that they can provide. Also, it works as a translator. I would say like this, because quite often different actors or representative of group of actors, not necessarily they understand well each other. And business support organization, they translate the vision and the policies into action and help those different stakeholders talk to each other to understand and find a common solution or, for example, a common vision. And definitely business support organizations helps and, for example, has a mission of share their experiences either with different business support organization or between each other, or, for example, transferring those experiences to other organizations as well. So giving an institutional good practice example, that what comes, for example, as an intermediator, as, for example, institutions sharing the experiences with different institutions and helping actually to understand and to make the policy into real vision. So it was Tech Barcona's experience in twinning program supported by the Innovation Support Program for the Southern Neighborhood, and we had a twinning partnership with Tunisia, the first Tunisian IT-oriented technopark, and Tech Barcona shared best practices within the framework of giving services like consulting and investment readiness program, startup and corporate collaboration program, internalization program, also providing information about visa program for the startups coming to Lithuania and soft landing, organizing Al Ghazala Technopark delegation study visit in Lithuania, and definitely it was providing some tangible support to the startups, involving them international coaching day and involving them in international startup community. So it was also a mission to work together with the business support organization in Tunisia, sharing their practices from Lithuanian business support organization to Tunisian support organization, also supporting with the tangible services, startups, and also a representative of different ecosystem institutions in Tunisia. Another very fresh and practice of Tech Park Kaunas sharing its expertise with Kenya, again supported by SEED program and operated by Enrich in Africa. So we had an opportunity to get a twinning and matchmaking opportunity with the Kenyatta University Women Entrepreneurship and Empowerment Hub, and to share our good practices in women entrepreneurship program. So it gives actually a very good example how different actors, for example, in this regard, for example, actor from the academia, from the scientific and research field, meets business support organization from the completely different region, and they find common, for example, interest. Tech Park Kaunas, in the meantime, is still implementing the European Union-supported Interreg Baltic Sea region program, BSI for Women project, which is focusing on women entrepreneurship, helping them to become economically independent, working independently, fulfill their potential, within the framework of providing them incubation program. And Kenyatta University, with the help of these programs and the platforms, realized that that could be as of their interest actually to work together with Tech Park Kaunas and to align this already implemented incubation program and to be and make this ready for Kenya, for Nairobi County, for Nakuru, and to scale it beyond. So Tech Park Kaunas, working together with the Kenyatta University Women Entrepreneurship and Empowerment Hub, now is in the process actually of working together, mapping stakeholders, making a needs analysis and situation analysis, and having an ambition actually to develop strategic guidelines on financial resource and mobilization. So thanks to the SEED program and Enrich in Africa operation in this regard, these two actors, business support organization and academia and research, was able to meet, to have a steady visit, to give this possibility to learn cultural aspects, to start working together, and in the future to implement other activities. And one more example of scaling beyond the borders. Tech Park Kaunas is sharing expertise, and actually this happened like 2 hours just ago, that we had a meeting with the University of Johannesburg Business School, and we had an opportunity to welcome MBA executive students, representatives of different institutions like South Africa government, representatives, public sector representative, business companies from health, construction, media, finances. And that is the way actually to cooperate, to join efforts together, which brings this collaboration opportunities as a key. I think that someone has a microphone on, but if one could just work on it. Thank you. So that what comes actually to the common partnership and the collaboration together. Not everything is actually goes very easy. Yeah, and to work on the study visit, on the delegations, on the matchmaking, on finding, for example, common solutions, sometimes we meet some challenges. But what is important actually when we realize that we have those challenges is not to step back, but actually to step first and try to solve them together. So, what kind of challenges usually exist when we try to cooperate, when we launch the cooperation? Definitely, it could be like funding bureaucracy. Whatever, for example, initiative we start and what kind of, for example, a project initiative we launch, usually it may come with some funding bureaucracy that may discourage, and especially those actors which have, for example, less of experience, those who are, for example, smaller actors. So what is important actually to encourage them work together, to involve them in, for example, bigger consortiums and share the experiences that they could also learn. Also, what happens as a challenge is asymmetry. European organizations often come with some, for example, more resources, and it could be like, for example, impactful. So, what is important actually to find to find a balance and a common understanding. And what we will also have in our other upcoming our discussions and presentations, quite often we face cultural and operational differences. And sometimes it creates misunderstandings, especially when new, for example, actors come together from different regions and when they try to understand each other, when they try to work together. There are some misunderstandings sometimes in the work style, even sometimes in a silence. There is, for example, a misunderstanding. So sometimes we need time also to learn and also to find this mutual trust in each other working together. So even though, for example, that we face various kind of challenges in creating partnership and working together, it is important not to give up and try to overcome various kind of barriers. And here we understand that various kind of already, for example, created policy frameworks, financial instruments, and also launched platforms, they help. They help to do what? Actually, to work together in capacity building and training. We can start from this. Sometimes, in order to learn to work together, we need to go for this capacity building. Also, it's not necessarily immediately to jump into something huge and major. Sometimes we can pilot projects, start from something small, and when they build trust before scaling. Always helps peer-to-peer review exchanges, that we have a human connection that matters, that actually we would feel this human perspective and learn from each other, that we could actually earn this trust. And that builds long-term commitment, understanding that sometimes we need to be patient, that this is not like a one-off project, but that we could work together from something smaller to something bigger. Actually, my presentation comes with a call for action. The call for action is to encourage that not necessarily we need to understand that we need to work alone. Not at all. There are quite many structures, there are quite many frameworks already created, and there are communities that exist and they're ready to help. So my message is to all the stakeholders who are looking for those partnerships, those who already have some or they are only starting, it is important to be proactive. Proactive in various kind of perspective, identifying potential partners, identifying potential fields of cooperation, identifying actually potential financial instruments. Also, use the funding because it exists. The frameworks, they also are available. It is important to understand that there is no need to reinvent the wheel. It is existing. We just need to take it, to use it and apply it. And especially those who come, for example, from small and medium enterprises, from startups, from academia. My advice is actually look for business support organizations locally or nationally or actually even regionally. Work with them because in fact they can support you. They already have various kind of programs and platforms of the partnership, and they can sustain the collaboration for you. And my closing remark with this presentation is that, in fact, when we talk about the innovation and the research and the partnership among the region, it is important to understand that innovation knows no borders. It just goes through because usually it is the way to actually solve all those challenges and to find those solutions. If we work together, like two regions and actors in those regions, we can create those solutions and it can be impactful locally and globally. So I come back to my beginning of the presentation saying that collaboration is the key. Partnership is strategic, mutually beneficial and actionable. And it is important to find a business support organization which can be critical for you and can support and help you. If you have any questions, here is my QR code to LinkedIn profile. Please contact me online or give questions in the end of the session. I would be happy to contact you or provide any for example, answers to your questions or any support if you see that I can give any consultations in this regard. And my presentation comes to end and I am stopping sharing my screen and I would like to give over the floor to another speaker because we had an agreement with the Gideon that each of the presenter gives the floor to another speaker. So I would like to invite Zandil Ntuli, the project manager, to give a speech on another topic, which is identifying synergies, strengths and opportunities in the European Union, Sub-Saharan Africa ecosystem. Zandil, are you with us? Yes, I can see presentation in front of us. We can see it. I confirm and I give the floor to you. Good luck.
Thank you so much. It's as if we were doing the presentation, some parts of the presentation together. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zandile. Just want to... Yes. So I'm from the Enriching Africa Center. The Enriching Africa Center is a Pan-African, Pan-European innovation engine. So what we are a platform that represents a network of accelerators and incubators. And our mission is to be the primary platform for enhancing the Africa-Europe tech and innovation ecosystems with a vision of being a bridge between Africa and Europe innovation ecosystems. We originated from a European Commission funded project, Enriching Africa project. And out of that emanated a sustainability vehicle called the Enriching Africa Center. We are a trusted ecosystem intermediary. We are a convener of projects and a convener of stakeholders within the ecosystem. And also we are a capacity builder for our network. We have a network of plus 200 champions. These are your accelerators and incubators and hubs, which span across 37 countries, both in Africa and Europe, with the majority being in Africa. We are sector agnostic. So we are there for digital transformations, for agri-tech, health tech, energy and climate, which this represents some of the sectors that our network members are under. Looking at the strength of the European innovation ecosystem, you have very strong funding mechanisms Just as an example, Horizon Europe has a budget of 95 billion spreading across from 2021 to 2027. You've got a strong network of universities spread across Europe, and you have a connected market of 27 countries. What this brings is a world-class research and development infrastructure and talent pool. There is a strong and established institutions that assist with IP protection and standards. You have a gateway to about 450 plus million customers that you can sell your solutions to. And also you have, as mentioned earlier, diverse funding mechanisms, including public-private funding landscapes. Now, Sub-Saharan Africa has also strong potential or strong innovation landscape. The strengths are you have a population of plus 1.3 billion people, of which 65% are under 35. You've got a strong mobile connection, plus 600 million connections, and you have a diverse market spread across 49 countries. So this demographic is young and is tech savvy. You have leapfrog innovations. There's a high potential of even more future leapfrog innovations with examples such as the M-Pesa and commonly fintech, the growth of fintech across the African landscape. The continent, or shall I say, Sub-Saharan Africa is resource abundant. You've got critical minerals that the world requires. You've got a huge amount of arable land that agriculture innovations can take advantage of. So the natural infrastructure of Africa is an advantage for Sub-Saharan Africa as is. And then you've got these hubs and ecosystems that of innovation that have formed within the Sub-Saharan region, be it your Nairobi ecosystem or Lagos, or even recently the Cape Town innovation hubs. So where is the perfect synergy between these two ecosystems? The ones that come out most prominently is your climate and agriculture sector. It's your health sector, energy transition sector, and digital transformation. Now, if you are into smart cities, it's not that you cannot do anything, but if you haven't decided which sector to go into, these are the most prominent and have high potential of synergies between Africa and Europe and high potential of growth. Looking at the climate and agriculture, Europe and Sub-Saharan Africa have got strong technologies within this sector, and both regions are looking at climate change, and with that, the two ecosystems can formulate solutions for sustainable solutions for food security and climate adaptation. Then looking at health innovation, both regions have strong pharma expertise, with Sub-Saharan Africa being limited in terms of infrastructure, especially for vaccines. What are both regions facing? Disease burden. I think the COVID-19 breakout has shown everyone that this burden it can face any region, and together we can formulate breakthrough treatments and deliver models. Energy transition is another big one, which is actually connected to climate change. Out of these, the two regions both have strong technology, innovation. There is a bigger potential to implement in Sub-Saharan Africa, as many of the economies are going through energy transitions. Therefore, there is a potential and opportunity for sustainable solutions for food and climate adaptation, similarly with climate and agri-tech. And then finally, with digital transformation, the European Union has very strong standards in this sector, including even for the newer technologies such as your artificial intelligence. And Sub-Saharan Africa has a strong innovation ecosystem. Together, these ecosystems can go to the next gen digital services and infrastructure. Now, how do you as a research and innovation actor take advantage of these synergies? Our advice and recommendation is that you focus on 3 pillars. There is a lot of networks in both ecosystems that you can reach out to for support of any of your innovations. There is platforms that are available in the ecosystem, largely sharing a lot of information and resources that you can also take advantage of. And then it's a lot of Africa-Europe initiatives that are available to most research and ecosystem actors. Looking at networks such as the Africa Association of Universities, they are actually in this room if you have any questions for them. This network has about plus 400 universities under them. So if one is looking for expertise in a in any field, this network is available to guide you to the right place. Then you've got the Enriching Africa Center, which I'll speak in depth in the later slides. You've got platforms such as, you've got also EBN, which is a network of accelerators and incubators and innovation actors in Europe, which has vast experience in this sector, which our European actors can also reach out to, in fact, European and African actors can reach out to for any needs that they may have. Then you've got platforms within this ecosystem that can help facilitate or help with your next innovation need. Eurocracy, which houses companies, houses investors, and houses a lot of startups, which you can reach out to. If you form part of this platform, you do have access to sending requests, should you be looking for partners in a particular field. You've got the Enriching Africa Center, which houses a network of accelerators and and incubators. We also have a network of experts. We also have a network of innovators. For any ecosystem needs that you may be looking for, you can reach out to the center. You also have platforms such as Digital Collective Africa, which has vast tools for startups, and also you can have access to some investor insight. Then you also have your Africa-Europe initiatives. Primarily, I'll focus on the Africa-Europe Innovation Agenda, which is running for the next 8 years. It's a 10-year program, and it's on its 2nd year. It basically has a lot of initiatives around health tech, around climate change, and a number of other actions that it will carry out in the next 8 years through the 2 ecosystems. Another initiative which is of interest, you have the IP Help Desk, which is a help desk that is available to any innovators or research and innovation actors that might be looking for IP advice or might be looking for information of where to go in a particular region in Africa for IP advice. Yes, Gideon?
We have 2 minutes more.
Okay. I think I will skip to, I've already mentioned that the Enriching Africa Center as a network, you have access to around 200 innovation champions that are able to guide you through your journey as a research and innovation actor. You have what we call a dashboard of initiatives that is sitting under the EURA-Access platform, which I will show you in the next slides, where you can see what is happening currently within your region in the space of research and innovation and find your space or find more information in any need that you might have. Part of the initiatives that have actually been the bedrock of the SEED project. On this slide, as you can see here, these initiatives have been carried out. Some are still active in the past few years, which any research and innovation actor could form part of. And these will assist with facilitating synergies and collaborations amongst research and innovation actors. An initiative that's currently running, which covers a lot of ecosystems or a lot of ecosystem actors. You have your policymakers, you have academia, is the Africa-Europe Innovation Platform. That is one to look for. It has thematic challenges coming up, communities of practice, webinars, and some capacity building. And this is a platform where you can find synergies with different partners. So as I move to close, the Enriching Africa Center has a platform. In that platform, we house the marketplace, which is a place where you can see ecosystem offerings across Africa and Europe. When you find part of it, you will find what we call Africa-Europe Tools. The Africa-Europe Tools is a digital environment which was created under this project, which is the SEAD project. This was for research. This is for research and innovation actors who are interested in finding synergies across Europe and Africa and finding opportunities available to them. As you can see, Euro-Access is part of the partners that are on this dashboard. You've got your inner-wide calls, which are calls that happen between Africa and Europe entities that want to partner. And we're going to project for about 6 months. So if you are in this room and you are a science, technology, and research actor, please sign up to the Enriching Africa platform so that you can get access to all this information. Thank you, Gideon. Any questions?
Okay, I think you can pass on to the next person. Thank you very much.
And the next speaker is, next speaker, please introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. Unfortunately, my camera isn't working, but I'm really pleased to be here, and let me try to share my screen. Maybe Gideon, I think I will look
I should
for
share.
your support. Yeah.
Okay, good. Let me go on. You can go on.
Yeah, okay. I think, are you on the right slide? We can see the first slide, which is the global intro. Yeah, just one slide before and we'll be perfect. Oh, yeah, slide 6, it would be great. Great. So let me try just to turn on my camera a few seconds and after it will switch off all by itself. But really happy to be here with you today. So I'm Charlie Guérin, manager of Bondinov Africa. Bondinov is an international agency which conceives and implements programs linked to entrepreneurship and innovation in Europe, in Africa, and between Europe and Africa. And we are part of the SEED project. We are one of the partners. And thank you for the former speakers who already share very insightful information and also some insights regarding the identification of partner. I will dig a bit into this topic. So next slide. Indeed, when we are talking about identifying partnership, this is definitely a key factor of success. I don't know, Gideon, if you can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, definitely the identification is a key success factor. Yeah, slide 7. I think, yeah, thank you. Not only at different stage, because not only if you identify the right partners, it will help you to win a contract, a call for and a tender, and also to ensure the successful implementation of your project. Just to give you an example regarding the seed project, you have around 10 partners, both from Europe and from Africa. For example, Steinbess, which is an agency which is expert in European projects, partnered with Space, Bondinov, Wasiab, Metis, Enrich in Africa Center, and other organizations which are based in Africa. And there is definitely relevancy and consistency regarding this partnership, because there is a real complementarity between these partners. From a localization implementation perspective, some actors, some partners are based in Europe, other partners are based in Africa, in several and different countries, such as Ghana, Senegal, Kenya, South Africa, and also a complementarity regarding their expertise. And this is how the seed project is currently becoming successful and reaching its goal. If we go to the next slide, thank you, Gideon. How can you identify partners which will allow you to win market and also implement successful projects? The first insight I would like to share with you is an insight and a best practice that is more about your long-term strategy, which is to create a community. This is something that you can implement on a proactive manner. This is something that you can capitalize on what you already have. For example, your social network touchpoints, such as your LinkedIn page. You can also capitalize on your network. You can capitalize on events. This is something that you can do every day without having in mind a dedicated call for proposals. It will help you to build your network and to create a community, to make other organizations to know you. And by doing this proactively and regularly, it will prepare and update your portfolio of potential future partners, which is really helpful while you identify a call for proposal. It will also enable you to make initial contacts in order to get to know you better. And it will also allow you to work on your communication and visibility. So definitely don't wait for a call for proposal to look for potential European or sub-Saharan African partners. If we go to the next slide, so what can you implement if you have identified a call for proposal or a tender? So the first thing that I would recommend is to identify your needs and goals. While you read the call for proposal and the guidelines and what's expected within this call, I would warmly recommend you to identify and list your internal skill and resources. This is what it will be, a kind of diagnosis of your added value on this project. But I would recommend you not only to identify and list your strengths, but also your weaknesses and what is still needed to answer and to meet the goal of the call, the concerned call. While you will be identifying these needs and weaknesses, actually these are opportunities and avenues to identify potential avenues of partnerships. And so that's why, based on these needs and weaknesses, you will be able to map the types of structures or organization that may address these needs and weaknesses. So it will help you to start thinking of organization and structures that can be complementary to your organizations. The idea is to answer the question, what type of structures could answer and address the needs that is highlighted in the call and that I'm not able to address on my own. While you have the type of structures identified, then you can start prospecting. Zandile already shared some interesting and useful platform where you can start to identify potential partners. Also, you can definitely also use LinkedIn to do so. Please capitalize also on your network. There are also European platforms such as Cordis, and also within the Global Gateway website, you have also this opportunity to call for and to search for partners. And definitely, if you have already created your community and your network, this is the opportunity and your chance to identify within structures and organizations that you already know potential partners. When you have identified these potential partners, one really crucial point and the next step is to assess their relevance and their compatibility. It's kind of doing your own due diligence of these organization and structures. So please, upstream on your side, do your homework and try to get to know them better by doing some research. I suggest you to have a dedicated look on their expertise. Do their expertise really match the need and the gaps you identified? Are they credible? Do they have a track record and references that can fit your need and the call for proposal? Do you share the same values, or at least are you comfortable with their values? If we are thinking about long-term partnership, this is something really important. Are they capable to be part of this project in terms of capacities? Another point is interesting to know if they are accessible. They can be relevant, but if you don't have any contact with them and you don't have any way to reach them, they may not be the most accessible potential partners. So depending on the time that you have, you will see if it's relevant to choose them, and also their implantation. Where are they based? It will allow you to know whether it is relevant or not for this call for proposal to contact them. And of course, if while doing your due diligence on your side, you assess that there is compatibility, you can go to the next step, which is organizing a call with them. And if we go to the next slide, So now let's say you've identified potential relevant partnerships. Yeah. Can you? Yeah, thank you. So the next step is to get to know them better. Yeah, can you go to the? I don't know what I don't know why the slides are moving. Sorry. And so before having contact with them, please draft a clear value proposition, which could look like, for example, we seek to blah, 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 we can provide blah, blah, blah. It will make it very clear why you are here and what is your added value. And also think about a clear call to action, as they need to know what you expect from this discussion and this meeting. We all know that our time is precious, and that if we can be the most effective, concise, and also trying to be as clear as possible, it's also a key factor of success at the very beginning of the introduction. So, of course, during the call or the meeting, don't forget to introduce yourself. It will help them to get to know you better, and also on their side to present themselves, pitch to them the opportunity, the value proposition, and what are your ideas about how you could collaborate. And of course, depending on how much you know them or not, depending on the level of sensitivity, depending on where you are at regarding the call for proposal, you are not, you don't need to mention the name of the call for proposal if you think it's too touchy. So yeah, this is best practices that you can have in mind while contacting partners that you don't know very well yet. And if you are not in the context of a call for project, but you are more interested in creating your community, and yeah, there is no any deadline that you need to meet. And my main recommendation would be that time is your best ally to develop relationships, valuable and trustful relationship. Indeed, it will allow you to get to know each other better. And also something that we implement with success at Bondinov is, while you are not answering together to a call for project, you can initiate collaboration on small-scale projects. There is less risk, less involvement, and it will allow you to understand how they work. They will understand how you work and how you can collaborate together. And so little step by little step, you can also confirm the wish and also the relevancy to work together. It can also definitely help you also to identify your complementary strength if you work together and collaborate step by step. Gideon, can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, which will be my last advice, my last piece of advice to share with you, which are the pitfalls, also based on our experience. Yeah, it's better to avoid contact an organization without finding out about its activity based solely on a recommendation. As mentioned before, the network can be really powerful, but don't base your analysis only on what your other partners said about another organization. It could be a really interesting structure, but once again, please check if they are compatible, if they have the expertise. It will make you gain time and optimize also their time. Please also keep in mind to stay flexible about your plan and your expectation of a potential partnership. It's as said before, it's really interesting to have in mind what could be the avenue of the partnership, but you need to let the other organization also to take ownership of the project and also to be able to be actor of the construction of the partnership. Givele also talked about it regarding the perception. Yeah, please keep in mind that the European actors are not only a source of funding. Most of the time, European organizations are often intermediaries. The European Union Commission is the source of funding. So it can be frustrating for them to be considered only as a source of funding, which they are most of the time not. And on the other hand, European actors also need to perceive the African actors, and actually it's mainly the case. European actors need African actors in projects for their expertise, their knowledge of the field, and also the local context, and for the local connection. So as Givele said before, you are really looking into win-win partnership. And one last thing that could be also frustrating for the organization that you are contacting is that if you contact them without having any idea of what you want to do with them, actually we experience it with several structures that contact us. And this lack of structure and leadership at the very beginning, you know, when you don't know each other, can be frustrating, and the other organization can feel that they are wasting their time. So once again, have some avenues of collaboration in mind and stay flexible in order to co-construct and co-build the brainstorming regarding your potential partnership. So yeah, this is it on my side. Sorry once again regarding the technical challenges, let's say. And I'm really happy to give the floor to Alberto Opuku, who is a project manager at Space, and who will share with you best practices for cross-cultural communication and common pitfalls to avoid. So thank you, and Albert, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. Gideon, I'll be grateful if you could share my slides for me, just having a small problem here myself. I just sent it to you. So thank you for having me. My presentation will be short and sweet, as we usually say in Ghana. So my name is Albert Opoku. I also work with Space in Kumasi and in Ghana. And I'll be taking you through some of the things we can all look forward to when we're engaging across different cultures, especially different countries, different races, and different regions. So just waiting for Gideon to share my screen.
Can you see the screen? Hello, Albert. He's frozen.
Gideon, we
Okay.
can see your screen, but now we see the Teams background. We don't see the presentation.
Yes, I was coming back there to talk to Albert. I think he's frozen. Okay, but can you see my screen still?
Yes, we can.
Okay, right. So intercultural fluency is very important. You know that when we are cutting across different places, we have things that have cultural relevance to us. And I think one of the things that Albert was trying to demonstrate is that if you go to the River Syrian in
Albert
Paris,
is back, Gideon.
he's back. Okay.
Yeah, so
Hello,
sorry, it
Albert.
started just raining heavily at my end, as I had to switch the network. So I just wanted to show you images of things that sometimes we believe we know. And these are three well-known monuments. But for some of us, I mean, for the first time when I saw the first one on my left-hand side, you think it's the Statue of Liberty in the United States. But actually, this particular image you are looking at is in France. The middle one, many people will say it's based in Paris, the Dive Tower, but this is in Japan, as you can see. And maybe many people are familiar with the Egyptian pyramids, but the one in this image is actually from Sudan. Gideon, the next slide, please. So just like this monument that we've just saw, when engaging with different cultures, things may not always be what you think or believe they are. Okay. So whilst you may think so, it might not necessarily always be so. Because culture, it's to a greater extent like an onion. It is made up of layers. And when we talk about can you come back one slide? Yeah. So when we talk about culture, it is actually made up of 6 layers. You as the individual, your own personality. And we all know that even within families, different people have different personalities. Even twins, and I'm a father of twins, I can see that even my own kids have different personalities. On top of that, it's the group culture. So that's why how sometimes you can even identify that from a person's speech, you can say, oh, they are from this place or from that place. So we have the group culture. And then we have company culture from different companies, how we react, how we dress, how we do things differ. Then there's the industry, then there's the national, and of course, there's international culture. So when you're engaging with one person, you're not just engaging with just their personality, you're actually engaging with 6 different layers that makes up that unique person. And just like the word onions is spelled with 6 letters, so also remember that it is 6 layers you deal with. Okay. So next slide. Remember this point that culture is dynamic, but because of these 6 layers that each person comes with, there are definitely conflicts that could happen. So how then do you handle the nuances that happen when you're even cross-carpeting countries? In the next slide, I give one key advice. Identify connectors who can help you overcome the resistance to both technical processes and power roles. So if you move into a different country or different community, connect with other people first, people you've already built relationship with. And I think Charlie covered a lot of that in her presentation on how you should build those connections, events, LinkedIn, and let these people be your gateways into the companies, organizations, or the countries where you're entering. These people can be the people you can always connect with and say, is this right? Can I say things this way or can I do things this way? So please find your connectors before you get into a community. Most likely, just like we are doing here right now, remote communication might become one of the most primary way you engage with people in different cultures. And it can be tricky. So it's very important to have a very clear-cut communication channel. How are you going to engage? Would you be using Meet? Would you use Google Workspace? Would you use Zoom? Would you have a WhatsApp call? So because people interpret these ones differently. For example, recently we had an engagement where people were exchanging contacts. It turned out that those who were exchanging contacts by WhatsApp felt that they could just say hi, but those who exchange contacts with LinkedIn would prefer to say dear sir or dear this, because you see that the channel you chose turns out to control or change even the dynamics for which you can communicate together. Of course, if in doubt on anything, schedule a meeting to understand how things are going. The next slide. So let me end up with these 6 key tips for successful collaboration across different cultures. 1, just be aware that there are different cultures and people come from different backgrounds in any partnerships, and things might not always be as you think they are. There isn't a one-size-fits-all approach, so nobody can tell you this is the best way or that way. However, because remember, we have 6 different layers, which means that people are different irrespective of what culture they come from. Find your doorkeepers, find people who you can connect with, who can help you understand how best to communicate and work with other people. Number 3, be transparent, right? Set up clear structures from the start and communicate repeatedly. Let people understand that for me, you can use words like unfortunately for me, or in our case, or how would you, so that you have a better understanding of the different dynamics you're dealing with. Number 4, maintain the overview. Always check if the results align with the goals. No matter the engagement you're having, it's because you have clear-cut goals. Despite the cultural differences, you still need to make sure that all of you are being aligned and working towards those goals. Number 4, there's always legal things involved. So when in doubt, make sure you consult. That's why lawyers are there. And also check out websites of various countries to understand the legal framework within which you're doing things. And finally, we all hold assumptions. We are human beings. We can always assume. And like the images I shared at the beginning, we always have assumptions about things. It is okay to have assumptions, but it's more important to confirm that or to clarify that. So as you engage with other people across different countries and across different cultures, hold these 6 principles dear. And I think that as you do that, you'll be able to have much more successful partnerships and engagement. Thank you for your time.
All right. Albert did not introduce the next speaker, but that's fine. The next speaker is already up. Crispin, are you going to share yourself, or I should share?
Let me try to share my screen, Gideon.
All right, good.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Super. Okay, so I'll introduce myself. I'm Crispin Sanga, project manager, Steinberg Europa Zentrum. I'm working together with Eva and our colleague Ina to coordinate the project seat, which is, let's say, the mother to this webinar we're having today. And Steinbeis itself is a company that has already been there for over 30 years. We are working in consulting and research funding in Europe and beyond. We have been working in the area of Africa for the last decade, engaged in a lot of projects, including coordinating the Enriching Africa project, which gave birth to the Enriching Africa Center. We are also happy to be coordinating this particular project, which is coming to an end in December. And what we are doing in the company basically is really innovation management, social innovation, dissemination, communication activities, and exploitation activities, but also overall project management, but also proposal writing, which is now offered as a service through one of the arming of the company. So today I'm supposed to be talking about developing from the concept to the agreement, and I must say, we have already had a lot, which is already falling into what I was already planning to talk about. But I will try to cover the areas where we have not covered, basically. So what we we have heard from the very first presenter to Mr. Albert, is really how you identify the calls, how do you know where to look for proposals, how do you form a consortium. So I'll try to just take the process from when you have a concept of an idea, how to start or where to start. Really, it depends. Sometimes you have to start with the concepts. Sometimes you start with what Charlie said, really trying to create a network and people who have the same sort of interest, be it in the topic or in the area. For example, you might be in the concept of a particular concept, for example, international development or climate projects. But also you might also create a network in the area of focus, for example, Sub-Saharan Africa, or project focusing in the Mediterranean, for example. But then in terms of the flow, the most important thing once you have a concept of an idea to come up with a project is to look for a suitable call. And this is something different when it comes to what I'll be talking much more, the Horizon Europe projects, because this is where we are having more experience into. It is working differently. It's not like you just have a concept and then you create a sort of a proposal project and then you look for funding. This is not the way it works. Usually, yes, you have a concept, yes, you have a problem that you want to solve, but then you always need to wait for the call to come out, the call for proposals. And usually you have a specific sort of call topics and the framework on what you have to respond to. So the task is to align what you already have in mind to respond to a specific call that matches what you are looking for. And sometimes that's not the case. And as Steinbeis, for example, this is what is one of the services that we provide to really help you align your expectations and ambitions to a specific call that is available there. And if it's not available, to anticipate or maybe change a little bit your concept so that you can fit into the calls that are available in that particular period. And then, of course, the next step is really to either join or to build a consortium, which is the topic that my colleague Shali has explained very well. So I will not waste your time there. Another part, once you join a consortium, and if in this case, for example, if you're joining this project, the European project for the first time, in most cases, you have to register your company or your organization into the portal so that you have a specific identification number. And this is very important also if you're coming into this space for the first time, because the process to register and have the partner identification number takes time. And in this case, you really need to start, once you join a consortium, really start to make sure that you have all these required documents. But also, there's a lot of other things that you have to consider here. I'll come to cover that. But then, of course, we have the process of writing the proposal and submitting the proposal. And hopefully, this goes into the process of evaluation by the Commission, and maybe you win the proposal. If you have a positive outcome of the proposal, what is coming next is the preparation and the signing of the consortium agreement and the grant agreement. So these are two different agreements that you need to sign before starting the project. And I'm going to talk about those two agreements and what they entail, because I think this is something we haven't yet covered. So I will skip this slide, as I said, because my colleague Shali really explained a lot about joining or building a consortium. And then I will talk a bit more regarding the consortium agreement. So what is a consortium agreement? So once you have joined into a proposal and then you're working together with different organizations, usually these are collaborative projects. You're not doing it all alone. So Charlie gave an example of the project SEED, for example, where we are, sorry, my slides keep moving. I need to stop the slideshow. Yeah, so for example, in the project SEED, where we have partners from Africa and Europe, it keeps changing. And in this case, these partners are coming with different ideas, different expertise, and we are working together to, just a second, let me sort out the slideshow. Okay, I'll share my screen again. I hope now it is sorted. Oh, that's it. Okay, apologies for the a bit of inconvenience there. So most of the European projects are collaborative projects, which means you're bringing different partners together with different expertise. And in this case, there's first the let's say the aspect of what partners bring together into the project to create a compelling proposal that responds to a specific call, which eventually becomes a project. And so you have a phase where individual partners bring their expertise to have one thing, which is a proposal that is going to be a project. And the consortium agreement is bringing together some aspect that let's say regulates and defines how these consortium partners are going to be engaging amongst themselves. And one of the aspects that's very important when it comes to the consortium agreement and the proposal at large is the aspect of intellectual property. So this is all the materials, the knowledge, the expertise, sometimes it's the systems, the tools that the partners are bringing into building the consortium. As I said, this is most of the time a collaborative project. I give this example, for example, when we're working with European partners and African partners. Sometimes it's European partners bringing their knowledge and expertise, or for example, the African partners bringing their knowledge and expertise. The European partners bring their tools, and together work them into a proposal that we want to solve a certain solution, to provide a certain solution. And what happened now, I would focus a little bit in the aspect of intellectual property rights, because I think this is a very important aspect of the proposal. And it is cutting across from the ideation to the proposal phase, proposal writing stage, to the grant preparation, and throughout to the project life cycle. And as I said, what we start with usually is really what the partners are bringing into the project. So, for example, if we are working with Hyperspace in Ghana, and they say, okay, there is a challenge of food security in a community in Ghana, and Hyperspace have the know-how, they know what they need to solve this, to provide solution to this problem. For example, it's having a post-harvest technologies, but they really lack some of the machines, for example. And then they know the problem, they have the local knowledge, they have the systems in place, but they have to partner with us, for example, to provide the mechanisms and the machines to be able to solve this problem. So in this case, HAPA comes in with something and we also bring in something. And this something is what we call the background information or background IP. So this is something that the partners bring into the project. And it's very important when you are going into a collaborative project to identify beforehand what is it that you're bringing into the project and how can you protect that. And of course, through the Horizon Europe project, there are a lot of guidelines that you have to use to understand how it works with the protection of IP and how to utilize them. And of course, you can come with something that is protected already, or you need to protect something before you can bring it into the project so that then it is already protected. And you have to understand that there is always some ways we can discuss on how we can utilize or we can make use of the IP that you bring into the project. And so you have several partners, everyone brings something. So it was the case for the project Seed. We have several partners, for example, in Region Africa, bringing their platform. Some partners bring their knowledge, their know-how, their programs, their network, their contacts, data. And all these partners have to identify what they're bringing in, and we have to map that during the proposal writing stage. And then you go into the project. So the content of IP through the proposal phase is also getting into the document of consortium agreement, but also later also in the grant agreement, because the European Commission is giving a very strong emphasis into the topic of IP. And because IP is also very important when it comes to dissemination, exploitation of these results that are coming out of the projects. So what you're coming in with what you're bringing in into the project, that's what we call the background information, and then implementation during the project create project results, which then it's not an individual ownership. Most of the time, the project results are also a result of, let's say, co-development, co-creation. And again, in this area, the IP is very important because we have some mechanisms to define and understand who owns what and what are the mechanisms. So really understanding the creating the ownership and understanding who owns what part of the project result. And of course, then you have the exploitable part of the results, and then of course then key exploitable result, which goes into the level during the phase of closing the project, and then commercializing those project results. And in this space of research and innovation or research and development, IP is very important because this is also what is used to measure the level of development and the level of innovation in a specific country. And you can tell, for example, in the African countries, not so many, let's say, researchers or innovators are getting into the level of really going into protecting their IP through different approaches. This could be patents, it could be copyrights, trademarks, but the level of really protecting and the awareness is not that huge. And that's why also through the project, and thanks to also a partner in Region Africa platform and the Africa Center, working closely with different organizations that are providing this kind of support to research and innovation actors to be able to understand the importance and the processes to protect their intellectual properties. And then again, this is, I think I've already covered most part of that. Once we have signed the consortium agreement, the next step is signing the grant agreement. Now, again, taking you back to the differences between these two, the grant agreement is what is signed, or it's a formal contract between the project and the funding body. In this case, if we're talking about the Horizon Europe, for example, the contract is what comes between the Horizon Europe or European Commission and the project. And from the project, usually not everyone is really responsible here, but the coordinator on behalf of all the partners is signing this grant agreement with the Commission. And of course, then you have a formal binding contract between the project and the funding body. And it's very important to make sure that you understand all the aspects of this contract. And the other big difference is that the consortium agreement only safeguard the interests of the partners amongst themselves on how they are going to be working together, the aspect of intellectual property and other things, while the grant agreement goes beyond into the project implementation phase. So really talking about the budget, breaking down of the cost and justifying some of the costs, but also you are also having different timelines on what is expected when I don't want to go into detail here because I'll be taking some part of the next speaker, but I think then you'll be also able to understand what are the processes during the project implementation phase. But I would say the grant agreement is the door between the proposal phase to the project implementation phase. And once the grant agreement is signed, the project implementation starts. And as I said, the grant agreement is signed by the coordinator with the European Commission on behalf of all partners. And if a partner is signing a grant agreement, for Christians, this is like a Bible. For the Muslims, this is like a Quran. So really, this is a binding document that you need to understand every aspect of it. And when you're lost in track or implementation, you have to go back to what the grant agreement is saying. And everyone is creating this grant agreement. So it's very important to make sure that all the aspects that you want to be represented from your organization is reflected in the grant agreement, because once it is signed and endorsed, you cannot change anything. You have to implement as it is. So that's it from my side. The summary here on the tips is really be close to the selected call, build your network, and don't force a fit. I think Charlie really made clear that this is very important. Align well on the vision and implementation. Be aware of the time and the capacities. I think we all know, for those who are already implementing the project, you really need to be aware of what it takes to implement the task that you promised, but also be mindful of the future problems, which will be covered by the next speaker. So without further ado, I will hand over the stage to the next speaker. So I hope this is Joseph from Wazi. So Joseph is representing WhatsApp, a company that is based in Germany, but he's himself working from Nairobi, Kenya, and he's going to be talking about I think unlocking funding opportunities for the EU and Sub-Saharan Africa projects. So Joseph, the floor is yours, and I'm off. I don't know, are you sharing your screen, Joseph, or Gideon, are you gonna do that?
I think better Gideon to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just progress in the same way.
If you want, Gideon, I can keep on sharing.
Please keep on.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So good. Thanks, Crispin, and the rest of the speakers for highlighting many things that I probably was also intending to mention. I will go on to the gaps, just as Crispin mentioned. That is the things that I think would not, or rather have not been mentioned by the previous presenters. So please move to the next slide, Chris. Thanks. So here, I just try to give all of you a bit of experience on how we have come to understand the whole process of getting funding and what you need to do internally here to ensure that you're successful. I concord some 5 ingredients which can help you be successful in your cook. That means that 1, there is the external perspective, which you have had very well from the former speakers, and then we have the internal perspective. That means as an organization, what do you need to have before you say that you're ready to actually get this opportunity? These ingredients fall into 5. So 1, you need to know the program. Then from there, internally, you need to have a target domain. That is a target technical domain. That means that where exactly are you focusing on? And then also have a target application domain. From there, you build the consortium, and then finally, it's about time and ideas. And this is more like writing the proposal and working with the consortium to do it successfully. So that has been talked about quite strongly before. Next slide, please. A bit of expanding to what has been mentioned again before. So here I just give you a perspective of some of the existing programs. There are many, I think there are about 47 there, each with their own classification and also types of funding and application domains that they fall in. There are those that are often specifically for Europe, and there are those that cut across Europe and SSA. So I list for you some of those that are cross-cutting. So we need to have that cross relationship. So what you see on your screen are just few of those that apply across, together with what has been allocated between the year 2021 to 2027. Yeah, in terms of funding. Next slide, please. Horizon Europe is the key funding program for R&I until 2027. So we have those that I have shown you before. They are still good to work with, but then the Horizon Europe is often one of the main ones. Yeah, actually the key one for funding for Europe African projects. On this part also, SEED actually falls under this Horizon Europe type of program. So might be interesting to really first probably start from here and then start understanding the rest of the programs. Next slide. Then also we have the priority areas. These have been discussed by Zandile on the Enriching Africa presentation, but then I will emphasize on it a bit. So for this period, we have 4 main areas: food and nutrition, climate change, and then innovation. Yeah, innovation. Then I think I missed one on this slide. Yeah, but public health, sorry, public health. But then you have already had a bit more on them in the previous presentation. So better to know this part also. Next slide. Then now it is important internally to craft, like as an organization, you need to also have the kind of muscle or the kind of profile that helps you to now fit very well for these proposals. This is just an example from WASIAP. We are quite focused on IoT, space technology, AI, and also sensing technology. But then the technical domain can fall in any of the other areas that you could think of or you could be aware of. Yeah, you can also take some time on the European portal to give you some kind of idea of the domains that are available. That is if you're completely new in the application. Yeah. Next slide, please. Then you also need to have an application domain. As you have seen, there are priority areas. So you need to have some kind of focus on where you want to apply your let's say, yeah, your solution or application. This is also another example from WASIAP. We are quite strongly focused on education. That is where we began. Then water, that is a new area. Agriculture, also we are quite strong on this one. Then waste and energy also with quite strong applications here. Next slide. Then after you have this type of profile, you need to build the consortium. And building the consortium, it's an EU Africa proposal. So EU Africa, it means you need to have some partners in Europe, partners in Africa. If you're a European entity and you want to look for partnership in Africa, a lot has already been mentioned through Charlie's presentation on partnership. But then I can tell you something else because I am here in the African side, and I know the type of challenge that Europeans face when they're trying to look for partnership in Africa. It is not so easy if you don't have some good connection. Yeah, that means that if you don't know that specific entity that you want to approach, you will have a lot of trouble, because there is usually differences in culture, as Albert has mentioned, but then there's another thing which is called fear. Yeah, that means that most of organizations are quite cautious on external organizations trying to reach out to, let's say, learn or gain some information from them, because the process of getting to understand this or getting to partner with this organization is first to ask them, for example, what is your profile? What are you doing? What are some of the research activities? So to gain this information on the African side, partners are very cautious of sharing that information because they have had bad experiences before. That is the main thing. That means that most organizations come and they try to, let's say, some kind of benchmarking without saying that they're benchmarking, and then they do that from several organizations, and then they decide which one. So from the African entities, they don't like that. So better to take note of that part. So you may need to know, like, either someone or some good contact who can help you locally to reach out to that specific organization. On the other side, I think Africans also find it difficult to gain good partnerships or gain partnerships on the European side, mainly because of the level of development. That is, most of what is presented on one side does not match properly with, let's say, the level of technology in the European side. So it becomes a mismatch. So the main thing here is it is better to know someone, yeah, or know some interesting contact that can help you to get those strong partners that you want on either side. There is the main way through the portal. Of course, through the portal, you can get partnerships and maybe have a meeting and organize. But then for those who have tried, that one takes longer. Yeah. And sometimes you don't know the organization very well. They have a good profile online and they can speak well, but you come on the ground, it is not the same thing. Yeah. So here the main advice is just get a good contact who can help you to scout properly for the partnership. Next slide. Yeah, here it's about writing. Time is important. If you delay, you have a smaller chance. A lot has been mentioned, so I won't say too much. I give you some small statistics, at least for the climate change domain in terms of application. This slide and the next slide also, one is the European side. This is the African countries, European countries in the applications. The next slide is the African countries. You can show that also. Just back, Chris.
Sure.
Yeah, so this just can help you to know who is applying and who are the active persons. Probably it links up with the partnership side very well, and you can decide who would you want to work with, which country first, because the country also is usually interesting. You start with the country and then find the institution. So when you have these slides, you can take some time with them, yeah, to understand. Next and final slide. This one. So here I just give you a portfolio of some of the projects that we're working with. We have been quite successful on several projects. We have 7 running projects. On the first step, those are Horizon Europe projects that are active within WhatsApp. Then the next one is Erasmus Plus, and the next one, they are completed projects. They were Horizon Europe projects also, but they are completed. And we also volunteer as well through some of the projects. So this is ResiLink. We are just volunteering. We don't have any concrete funding here. Yeah. So I put this slide just to let you know that we actually follow the same process and we have been successful. So maybe it is good for you also, and to also let you know that we are often open to partnerships and invitations for similar proposals. So feel free to reach us out. I put my contact on the chat, so you can take some time and reach out to me and we can see how to work together. At this point, I can see Gideon is already on the he's looking at me. So I would like to invite the next speaker, who is Eva. Also our very able project coordinator for the SEED project. So Eva, please take us through. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Joseph, for the introduction. I hope everybody's still awake. That's been quite a sprinted marathon already, I feel. But I'll do my best to take you through the next presentation. And there will be some repetition because I'm wrapping things together, so to speak, from the project management perspective. But I hope you'll still be able to take something from this presentation. So I think, Chris, you're still sharing. Yes, please. Could you go to the next slide? I want to go back to the basics because for the project management of the cross-continental collaboration projects, the legal framework really is the basis. So as Chris has mentioned, as a project manager, you need to know your grant agreement with the granting authority. This defines all the work that you've committed to carrying out. So this really is the basis. And then you have the consortium and the partnership agreement, which supplements the grant agreement and defines the relations between the different partners. And then you have also other relevant legal frameworks that need to be considered, such as data protection laws and so on. So these are really the first basis of all the project management tasks. Then I think if you look at project management in comparison, international projects in comparison to, let's say, national projects, there's more to it than just the project management task. So on the one hand, you have management, monitoring, communication, motivation and conflicts as in every other project, but in the cross-continental collaboration, you also have the intercultural aspects, which have been mentioned previously. So these need to be taken into consideration when you're responsible for the project management. And we will go through each of these points now. So I'm repeating, we're all onions here. So each person is made up of different layers of culture. So you have your international culture, especially if you're working in an international environment, you're influenced by people from other cultures as well. You have your national culture, your industry culture, you're influenced by the colleagues you work with, but then obviously as well, you have your own personality and your own experiences which shape who you are. If you go to the next slide, please. And what is important for this culture aspect for project management is that the culture defines the behavior in the group. It defines the behavior execution, how situations are interpreted, how situations are evaluated, how yourself and also the partners are perceived, and that can lead to conflicts also due to prejudices and stereotypes. So this is important to keep in mind when you're managing these projects. The good thing is that cultures are dynamic. So you have the chance to also shape the culture in your project. Can you please go to the next slide? Thank you. Now, if we look at management, what actually is management? And according to one of the founding fathers of modern management theory, it's defined as enabling groups of people with different knowledge, skills, and backgrounds to work together toward a common goal. So based on this, we can identify 5 basic functions, which is to set objectives, to organize the work, to motivate and communicate, to monitor performance, and to develop people. Please, can you go to the next slide? Yes. But this is like, that was a really vague definition, but obviously there are different approaches and styles. And I want to present this as a kind of toolbox from which you can take whatever you need in a certain phase. So, for example, if we look at the different approaches, you can have managed by objectives, which means that you have a participatory definition of objectives together in your partnership. And this creates motivation because then partners will identify with the defined objectives. But then it's also necessary to provide freedom for action and self-realization within the project. In that case, the planning is result-oriented, which means that this goes together with the cooperative management style. You can take a by delegation approach, which means there's a certain transfer of power. And this is what usually happens in, for example, Horizon Europe projects, is that you're giving over responsibility and decision-making for a certain task and time frame. But this means that clear rules need to be defined, and you generate also trust by giving over this kind of responsibility. And then you can manage by exception, which means there's basically complete delegation. The coordinator only gets involved in exceptional cases. And this can be a bit difficult if you have a large consortium with a common goal which you need to achieve, because then people might go off working in silos and the results might not necessarily match what you've promised in your proposal. Also with regards to style, so you can have different management styles. You can have an authoritarian leadership, which is defined by strict goal setting, control and monitoring. And this can sometimes cause low motivation because you're basically telling everybody what to do, which can be not helpful. You can have a laissez-faire style where you just basically leave partners to their own devices. And there can be a lack of framework for group development. Or you have a cooperative leadership style where you set goals together, you have active participation, and this can create a strong sense of unity. And the most developed form, you could say, is the leadership by the group, where basically the group self-regulates and all partners participate in leadership tasks according to their competence. Could we please go back to the other slide? I wasn't quite ready. Thank you. And then you have to accept the different strengths and weaknesses, and it's important to have a common goal. So these are all different styles and approaches. This doesn't mean that one approach or one style is better than the other. The important thing is that you adapt according to the project phase, the group processes you have in the partnership, the activity that you need to implement, and even the individual partner. For example, let's say you have only 1 month to implement a really tough project where there's lots of activities, then maybe you have to take a more authoritarian style. If you have a bigger time frame, you know you're not necessarily the expert in all of the activities that need to be implemented, then you should have a more cooperative or group style leadership where you give more freedom and you define objectives together to really find out what can be achieved and how that can be achieved. So this really is the toolbox in project management that you can use. Okay, now you can go to the next slide, please. Yes, so another typical project management task is monitoring, which means recording, observing, or surveying a process, and please go back one slide, yes, and the resulting controlling intervention. Also here you have different possibilities, different tools. You can do ex post monitoring, which means you implement without comparing the actual values to target values. So you would only in the end basically compare the results to the objectives you set. What can be a bit problematic here is that in that case, problems only become apparent in retrospect, and you can reach results, but not necessarily goals, because you can only react afterwards. So I don't really recommend this in that case for these bigger projects. You can have a feedback-based monitoring where you're during the implementation phase already comparing the target values and the actual values, which means that implementation gaps and deviations from the plan can be identified early on, and there's time to act. So this makes it possible to amend your course of action and then hopefully achieve your project goal. And then you have the decentralized form of monitoring, which also makes a lot of sense if you have experts in your consortium that implement specific tasks, is that you involve all partners in the monitoring process. And here, one person is responsible for each result, and that person also commits to delivering the result on time, on budget, and to the required quality as the expert. But in that case, you have to clearly define that this is the responsibility of that person, and you have to ensure that this is really communicated from the beginning and everybody is on board. Next slide, please. Of course, if you're managing such a huge project, you have to ensure motivation and goal alignment, which can be quite a challenge sometimes. So motivation, roughly defined, is the willingness to achieve specific goals, and that involves a certain degree of self-regulation from the partners involved. And it means that you need to steer the individuals towards the goal achievement and increase motivation. So I think you already have to consider in the proposal phase to include all the partners and ensure that everybody is aligned in terms of goals, is accepting what are the goals of the project, and is on board with what you're aiming to do in the proposal. And here it's often important to have a relationship with the partners you have on board, and you need to recognize the need for personal growth and responsibility that each of us has in when they're doing their work. So regular feedback and shared responsibility usually help to enhance motivation and thus project success. Yes, you can go to the next slide, please. So I'm just going to briefly speak about this because it has been mentioned before. Obviously, communication and conflicts, they are a huge part of project management. And here, that was also briefly mentioned, communication occurs on various levels. So you have a verbal level, a paraverbal, and a non-verbal level. Verbal means basically the words you're uttering, but this can be the words you're writing or the words you're speaking. Paraverbal would be the level where intonation, speed, volume of speech comes into play. And then you have a non-verbal level, which are facial expressions, eye contact, body language, touch, or proximity, or the positioning of the actors. And you have to be aware that the medium choice, so say you're choosing to communicate via an online meeting or via email or via WhatsApp, whichever is the channel of your choice, that impacts the message clarity and the relationship building. So, for example, you can have high context communication, which would be a meeting in person or per video, and that combines all the different communication levels I've mentioned above, because you can see the person, you can hear their voice, you see how that person reacts, and that really facilitates relationship building, and complex issues can be clarified. However, obviously, if you're traveling, for example, say to Africa or to Europe from Africa, then higher costs are involved and there's a higher organizational effort. And sometimes personal feelings also cannot be turned off. So this can be an advantage and a disadvantage. But in general, you need to see if you have to build a relationship, it makes sense to meet in person. Even if in our day and age, it's really easy to send a message via email or WhatsApp or meet via video, it can really help to also meet in person if relationship building is your goal. Then there can also be an advantage to using low context communication, such as sending an email, because you can, for example, consider your replies carefully before sending, and you can communicate really clearly and with, for example, if you need to communicate a deadline, it's good to communicate it in writing. So again, these are tools you can use. And in that case, culture obviously affects the communication styles and interpretations. So some people have a more direct communication style, others a more indirect one. So this is something to be aware of when you're managing your consortium. This also plays into the conflicts, which has also been managed previously. So if you want to prevent and resolve conflicts, it can help to identify promoters who can overcome resistance in the consortium via technical, process, and power roles. So let's say there's resistance because of not knowing, which means somebody can't implement their task because they don't know how to do it. So in that case, you need to find a subject promoter who has the technical expertise to support. Or there's resistance because somebody doesn't want to do the work, which is a psychological issue. In that case, we need to find a power promoter with hierarchical potential. or you have resistance because of not being allowed to, which would be an organizational issue. In that case, you'd need a process promoter who has organizational knowledge and diplomacy. So it's a game of finding the right person to talk to be able to implement the work that you need to implement. And in that case, as I mentioned before, remote communication can be tricky because you don't have all the different levels of communication. And it makes sense to determine in advance, okay, which are the communication channels? Where do you exchange data, for example, in a repository? How often do you meet? How often do you give feedback? What are the monitoring processes? That these kind of things are clear from the get-go, and that really facilitates the implementation of your project. Next slide, please. Yes. So some of the top tips, and summarizing a lot of the things that have been mentioned during the previous presentations already. Know your legal framework. That really is the basis of everything. When in doubt, go back and read it again. Then be aware of the different cultural backgrounds in your partnership, and be aware that that has an influence on how people react, how they evaluate situations. There is no one size fits all. So think about the different tools you have. Do you need to be more authoritative to achieve something? Can you be really cooperative? Is maybe somebody else the expert and you shouldn't determine the work that should be done? So really take a meta level and evaluate the situation. Then be transparent, set up clear structures from the start and communicate them repeatedly so everybody's on board and knows what to expect. And then maintain the overview. Are results aligning with goals, or do you maybe have to choose a different way of approaching things so you are achieving the goals that you've set yourself in the proposal and then in the grant agreement? That was my sprint now added to the marathon. And I think after me, I can hand over to Gideon, our host today, who will be speaking about some case studies and success stories of successful EU-SSA collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then it's great to get into the minds of the project manager with all the excitement and frustrations that she goes through every day. And it's something for all of us to be aware if we need to manage projects. In fact, we're going to skip the case studies. I think that we've had enough case studies in the presentations. WhatsApp, for instance, kept referencing what they have been doing, which is a good case study for the EU-SSA collaboration. And I think that all the speakers are also good case studies. So I think that we'll take those case studies, and we have already taken enough time of our participants, so we'll be wrapping up. But thank you very much, Eva, for rounding up things so well for us. So you've done my job. Now we know the journey from the start to the end. Building, identifying the opportunities for EU funding, building partners or consortiums, writing the proposals and what we need to keep in mind. And if the grant agreement fortunately is signed, then we have a deal. And Eva ended beautifully as to how we can manage the project while we are implementing it. So these are so good. Thank you all very much for sticking with us through to the end. It's been a long day for those that participated in the first one, the second one, and now the third one. It's indeed a boot camp, a virtual one, of course. So I think that at this point, we'll invite you to visit our website, seedproject.eu. I mean, there's a dash in the middle when you spell, but if you search for the Seed Project, you definitely find that, so that you can see all the project activities that have gone on. And then please also check the chat. Charlie has shared the feedback form. We definitely need your feedback on what has happened today. Please take a few moments to fill that. I will allow for about 2 minutes. It's not a long one. Please just click on the link and then give us a feedback. While doing that, if you can all open your cameras, we want to take a family picture to show that we're here. We stayed until the end. and we've taken a lot to go back with. Divile, thank you very much for staying until the end. It was a long one, but you stayed all through. Thank you very much. And she also shared her LinkedIn profile in the chat. So please follow her and connect. That's the purpose of this program.